Let's begin in the world of hockey, actually. Tell us what happened around the ice.
Absolutely. So if we're going to start with what happened in hockey, we have to talk about that World Men's Hockey Championship that we've been following loosely with all of the NHL players that go on to play for their respective countries after their playoffs are done. We already covered how Nathan MacKinnon, Sidney Crosby, and Marc-Andre Fleury have all been ousted as Team Canada in a surprise upset, as well as Team Czechia not making it to a medal round. It was Team USA against Switzerland for the gold medal in that one in the finals. And I did not realize this. Team USA has not won a world championship in ice hockey in 92 years.
That is actually very surprising. I also don't know who's on that roster because a lot of our, at least the USA people that we know of, are currently playing in the...
It's a lot of the younger guys. I like the biggest name I think is like Jeremy Swayman was the goalie, and he got a few like hot and cold streaks throughout the whole thing.
Is Worlds mostly for like some of the older guys and sort of the younger guys?
Certainly, it seems like the way that this is treated by Team USA at least is as a next step in development as a member of like the junior. It's a lot of guys who played at junior Team USA level. So, because Team USA has like an interest in developing a core unit of guys as well, of like just available American players, no matter where they are in the NHL. You can Avengers them together and hope you have some continuity going on in that program. So it's a lot of guys who've played together as well. USA does take the gold medal in this one in a tight 1-0 goalie duel that was decided in overtime 2 minutes in off a wrister from Tage Thompson of the Buffalo Sabres. So Tage Thompson is the hero who gets Team USA its first gold in 92 years. The big motivational story out of that one is that was the last tournament that Johnny Gaudreau played in for Team USA. So they got to put his jersey up and they skated around with the cup and everything. So that was a nice little feel-good story there. Team Switzerland out of that one is now 0-4 in gold medal games, having lost in the 13, 18, 24, and now 25 games.
Impressive, though, that they've made it so fairly recently.
Yeah, it seems like that's a pretty good upswing from Team Switzerland, who I would not have pegged as being a hockey powerhouse, but here they are.
Yeah, tend to be more of a violent sport, so.
Indeed. Our other big coverage was PWHL. We had one last game on the season, and it was a doozy. Minnesota with the chance to take home the cup on home ice, and they sure did put it away.
It's the storybook writes itself. Like I said,
absolutely did.
Looking at how some of the, even through the playoffs, which is kind of where I started to watch the PWHL a little bit more closely, their whole setup just feels bigger and better than everyone else. So they kind of feel like, it feels a little bit like they are the favorite. Again,
a lot of pieces of a Team USA program going on in that program as well. We covered them during the off season, having that little mini coup, getting the coach from Team USA installed over the previously sitting general manager. But it all worked out in the end, apparently. They raised the cup again on another 2-1 overtime victory. They changed the format up a little bit on this one, going with Ottawa scoring first early, Minnesota making the comeback, and then Minnesota scoring again in the overtime. But the big story out of the finals in non-Frost news was Gwyneth Phillips, who did take home the playoffs MVP and had to do the fun, I'm sad because my team lost, but now I have to accept this trophy and do a photo shoot.
That's twice now in the world of hockey, because I think Connor McDavid
had to do it last year, yeah.
What a good little
and
running.
He didn't even go out to the ice. They just said his name on the thing, and the commissioner stood with the trophy.
No, he was for sure hot.
Yeah, they have the footage of it on the little behind the scenes on Amazon Prime, I think, if you want to watch it. It's pretty good. For a Canadian, he gets a little spicy there. But yeah, so Frost take it home again. And now this is potentially end of an era, because we look forward now to the expansion draft coming up. 2 drafts coming up in the PWHL offseason. The specifically expansion draft to start filling the Vancouver and Seattle rosters. And then they're going to get up to 12 players through that draft, and then the regular yearly draft happens in which the Siren have the number 1 pick.
Yeah, not many players in the pool currently, so for sure you're gonna see a lot of shakeups, and I assume you only have so many protected.
It's a very tight, like a lot of teams are going to be have to making some tough decisions. You get 3 protections to start the draft, and after 2 rounds of picking, you can protect a 4th player.
That's not quite enough.
It's a very limited window of who you're saying is your core going ahead. The other tricky thing is most of the contracts that were signed at the beginning of the league were either 1 or 2 year contracts, so nearly everyone is up for renegotiation if they didn't sign an extension already.
This sounds like a good Agent of Chaos. Everyone is a kind of a free agent-ish, and you also are going to have your team pretty much ripped apart.
Yeah, there's going to be a roster juggle. I think this is the benefit, though, of being a omni league owned by the one billionaire who doesn't mind shuffling his money around that way.
House of Cards.
I guess so. That was the big stakes hockey news of the week, and then we have the ongoing playoff series in the NHL with the Carolina Hurricanes and the Florida Panthers. Last we left them, Carolina was hanging on desperately, looking at a 3-0 deficit in their series, and they managed to pull out one. Game, what would that be? Game 4 at home. They did go ahead and take the win. That one was basically a 1-0 game all the way through. It was Logan Stankoven who had the initial goal for the Canes on a turnover early in the first, and they rode that 1-0 lead the entire. It was the one game they were able to stick to their blueprint.
You score once and
shut them down. Yep, and don't let them through one more time. The ref may have been blowing the whistle a little bit in their favor as well. Nothing is scripted in pro sports. Don't worry about it. But they did get the one win to take the series 3-1 and force a Game 5, which they did go ahead and promptly lose.
Yeah, they kind of just put a hold on the inevitable. They did not look... Florida just looks so good, and
that's the big thing, is that they never really looked to be available, like ready to challenge Florida for a full series. They got the one kind of that you expect to get in a 7-game series, but even in the Game 5 where they're, desperate and trying their best, it still did not go their way. They did take it pretty close. It was, I think, a 1-goal game going into the third, but just... the offensive power never stopped. They were never able to throw Florida consistently off their game for long enough. And no one seems to be able to, because you'd think if anyone were built to do that, it was the Carolina Hurricanes. And no defense wins championships here. That is also to say there is some hot goalie situations going on as well.
Yeah, I mean, as long as they can get the first goal, they're fine. But if not, it's all downhill from there.
And even then, in this Game 5, they blew a 2-0 lead. Stankoven gave them 2 goals. I think it was Aho gave them 2 goals very early on in that one. They immediately gave them back in about a 5-minute span in the second period. And that was sort of like, they're done.
I was about to say, I'm pretty sure that's the game. I saw somewhere that they switched out their goalie. Was it them or was it the other series?
That's going to be our other series with the big goalie controversy in it to end that one off. But yes, in Game 5, Florida did go ahead and punch their ticket back to the finals. They are defending champs, and they look like it.
Yeah, they're kind of an annoying team, to be fair. They're really good, and also they kind of know they're good.
They know they're good, and they know they can beat the team they're going to play against.
Physically and mentally and potentially just skill-wise as well.
It's gearing up to be an entertaining bit of hockey, depending on how long it lasts.
We'll find out.
We will find out. The other half of that series is the western half of the bracket, and that is our Edmonton and Dallas series. Once again, we left that one at 2-1, I believe.
Correct.
And that one was in Edmonton for our Game 4. which Edmonton used their home ice advantage and took a 4-1 victory. This was all power play goals and was basically a 2-1 game most of the way through with 2 empty netters at the very end. That gave Edmonton the 3-1 lead, giving Dallas a do-or-die game at home, and this is the one I think you probably saw. 6-3 was the final in that one for Edmonton. And the big event that happened immediately was that Jake Ottinger gave up his first 2 shots as goals. So down a 2-goal lead immediately to start your must-win game. The Dallas coach did decide to do the very dramatic goalie swap, and it was a very controversial decision across the hockey world. Because it basically tells your starting goalie, who you have locked down for 2 or 3 more years, I'm pretty certain you did not trust him in your biggest game of the season.
I can understand from the goalie standpoint, like, give me a second here, but also, my guy, you can't let 2 for 2 be goals. That's no bueno there.
And now, this is a contextual thing where I can say he gave up his first 2 shots on goals. You can go look at those 2 shots and tell me which goalie on earth can save these wide open breakaway. Like, it's a complete defensive breakdown. So while it was a 2, no saves on 2 attempts, there was also some pretty huge defensive blunders committed in front of him. And that was sort of the theme of the series, was that for as tough of a time they gave us, Dallas was not consistently committed to their defense, and you can't do that against the Oilers.
They have way too many dudes who can just score the puck.
And you forget about, because there are the big name guys, you forget about the Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, the Evander Kanes, sort of support roster of guys who can make the play, who can do the setup for the big fancy finish. And that is the energy that they rolled through Dallas with on, I believe that was Thursday night. Thursday was when Edmonton punched their ticket, and so now we are all set for the first time since, I think I nailed it, since the 07-09 Detroit-Pittsburgh series, we're going to get our first back-to-back Stanley Cup finals.
That is, you don't see it as often in sports now because of the salary cap issues, especially in the hockey world, for sure.
I did not realize it was, in fact, this is only the 5th instance it has happened in hockey history. The Canadians, I believe Patrick Waugh's Canadians had a back-to-back series in the 80s, and then it was like a couple instances of Ottawa back in the 60s. And that was in the era when it was only the 6 teams, so of course you're going to have some...
You don't have very many options to choose from.
Exactly. So that is, I believe, all of our hockey news.
And I'm going to take Florida for that series because, unfortunately, as good as Edmonton is, I think I don't think Connor McDavid is destined to win a cup, and neither is Corey Perry, who he has on his team still.
He has the Corey Perry curse hanging over him. The only thing is that they have that one more year of, like, there are some people who say you have to lose enough in the playoffs before you can learn to win in those clutch moments. And maybe they've suffered enough in the eyes of the hockey gods, but
I don't think so. The way Florida's playing just currently through this playoffs, I think they're gonna tilt so hard.
You're relying, if you're Edmonton, on a streaky Stuart Skinner. Like, he's been on a hot streak now, but that could cool off, especially because I don't believe we will be playing again until Wednesday of this week, the 4th of June. We will begin that finals, and then we're only going to have 2 games to cover for next week's episode. I think they play the Wednesday and the Friday, and then it won't begin until Monday. But yes, it's probably looking like a repeat cup year if I were a betting man as well. Last note out of the NHL, little Avs prospect tracking here. We did sign our Russian goalie prospect, Ilya Nabokov, who we mentioned a few times throughout the year. He has officially signed a 2-year entry-level contract, so he's now kind of on the clock for contract timing and whatnot, but it is already been negotiated that he will spend 1 more year out in Russia before he comes out. So
I don't know, because I know we re-signed Blackwood.
Blackwood's got the long contract now. He's locked in for like 4 or 5 years. I think Wedgwood has a year left as well. So
I thought so too. I I assume when he does come over from Russia, he may spend some time with the Eagles, would be my guess.
Assumably at least a series or two, just for, make sure he's up to snuff and whatnot, accustomed to the American game. It is always a little different league to league, but we will assumably be getting a peek of it. I think the interesting thing is they did say he is coming out to the U.S. for development camp later in the summer, so that'll be when we get to see him alongside all the other sort of rookies and Eagles level prospects who will be trying to make the team this year.
It'll be interesting, especially with it felt like we were going through the turmoil of who's going to be our goalie and kind of have a set thing going on here to throw in another guy into the mix once again.
Wedgwood was always the obviously shorter term answer. He's the older of the guys. He's the more veteran. He's played that backup role already for a couple of years on shorter contracts. So that one's less of a surprise, but I think we do have that sort of bridge period right now where we still will be rolling with the woodshed.
Yeah, I like the woodshed thus far, at least in regular seasons. I'm going to need to see them in an Avs uniform for the full season going into hopefully another playoff run to really get a feel for what that net duo looks like.
Yeah, hopefully that's the direction that we get to see is as much of this year's final form. We can go ahead and mention that there are some rumblings about whether or not Brock Nelson wants to take a little bit of a pay cut to stick around with the Avs for a full season.
He did want to come here.
The report came out this week. He turned down a trade to Winnipeg. He could have gone to the Jets and been in that bracket, but instead decided he would rather go to Colorado, which largely we know is already thanks to Devon Taves, who played with him over when he was a Islander for a little bit at the start of his career.
Gotta love best friend duos.
Speaking of, Jonathan Drouin's going to be up for a new contract this year as well. How much do you pay for a best friend bonus for Nathan MacKinnon?
However much Nathan MacKinnon wants, basically.
We'll see if the cap can bear it. But yeah, we'll get into those conversations later in the year.